Hi, it's Friday, time to look back at what happened at Queen's Park and Ontario politics this week. Mask mandates are ending March the 21st, some mask mandates. That's the day after March break. Shops, restaurants, and schools will have their mask mandates removed. When it comes to schools, the thinking is that the risk to the average kid of serious illness is low. The problem is that there are vulnerable people, students or somebody in their families. Dr. Kieran Moore was worried about people wearing masks for that purpose getting harassed. Even light harassment, which I've received at the doors, is hard for kids to deal with. Ontario Liberal leader Stephen Del Duca, following the advice of members of the Science Table and some hospitals, called for waiting one more week after the end of March break, because during March break, people go on holidays. There's social mixing that's different from the usual school routine. And so if we wait a week after the end of March break, we can just see if the social mixing, the traveling doesn't bump up the COVID case numbers without us knowing. A $5,000 retention bonus for nurses was announced. Minister Elliott said that they are trying to get that first installment out in the next few months. Worth remembering that the election is in a few months. So this retention bonus is certainly welcome, but it's not the same as overhauling the system when it comes to working conditions and pay. If nurses see a brighter long-term future in these areas, working conditions and pay, more would stay on. And also, nurses aren't the only classification of health sector workers who have been under stress and short-staffed. The others apparently aren't receiving retention bonuses. And finally, the Financial Accountability Office this week put out a report on the long-term budget outlook for the province of Ontario, looking out as much as 30 years. Now, can anybody really see 30 years out? Maybe not. But when we spend money on ourselves, we may finance it by selling bonds that mature in as long as 30 years. So we care a lot about what bond buyers think about the next 30 years. The Financial Accountability Office said that in the short term, the budget is okay. The budget deficit will probably decrease a little bit. The economy is rebounding from the pandemic. The federal government did the heavy fiscal lifting during the pandemic. In other words, it took on most of the debt that we incurred by supporting people in need during the pandemic. But inflation and the increase of interest rates in response to try to control inflation, and the aging population without gains in labor productivity amongst the workforce are long-term challenges, and that is going to make it hard to balance the budget. The war in Ukraine and climate change, dealing with that crisis, are also going to be long-term dangers to the economy. Tell me what you think in the comments below. Otherwise, please join me next week as I look back at what happened at Queen's Park and Ontario politics.